It is 10:08 at WILK, and we haven't had the chance to talk to Pat Toomey as a United States Senator from Pennsylvania yet, but we will right now. Senator Toomey, this is the first time I ever said that to you. Good morning.
Good morning, Sue. Thanks for having me.
Sure. We had scheduled this interview last week before the events over the weekend in Tucson. So that really has become our priority issue. Your reaction as someone now in the role as a political leader, somebody who will be going out to meet constituents. When you heard about this, what was your initial reaction?
Well, probably like most people. I mean, it was shock, and it's horrifying when you think about the actual fatalities. A 9-year-old little girl. It's just so terrible, so horrifying. That's the first reaction, and then of course there's just a concern about what's the nature of this outrageous attack. And the early evidence certainly does seem to point to a deranged individual, and so as you know, he's in custody, and obviously I hope that he will get the punishment that he deserves from the full application of the law. But it's a chilling event, and it certainly kind of took the wind out of the celebrations of the new Congress and being sworn in.
Has it given you pause about your own safety?
Well, not to a significant degree, Sue. This is public officials certainly have a certain level of vulnerability. That's always been the case. But this sort of thing is extremely rare. As you know, I think it's been a very, very long time since the last member of Congress was attacked in a fashion such as this. So I think I'll probably tend to be a little bit more alert, a little bit more conscious. But I'm not going to let this change the way I go about representing the people of Pennsylvania.
Has anything been told to you, Senator Toomey, about this event and your own safety? Have they sent you any kind of email, or have you had a conference call about it? Has anybody approached this topic with you? There was
one email from the gentleman that I assume to be the Senate Sergeant at Arms, but I'm not even certain of that. His title was not on the email. But it was a description of the way the attack is being investigated, the involvement of the Capitol Hill Police, the FBI, the relevant Arizona authorities. There was basically an assurance in the email that this does not appear to be part of any larger threat to anybody. It seems to be a very isolated incident. And it was just the advice was to continue going about your business as you normally would, and always just keeping an eye out, being conscious, and using common sense. But I think it's just very important that members of Congress, as well as other elected officials, stay in very regular communication with the people they represent. We can't let this prevent us from doing that.
And the one thing that I'd like to broach with you is that constituents, your average, normal constituent, is I would assume, although you may be able to tell me differently, is interested in certain issues, may have concerns, but are people that you meet overly demonstrative? Do they act out? Do you think that...
No, the vast majority of people, the vast majority of the time, if they have anything to say, it's very civil, and people do sometimes want to pass on a thought, a concern, a worry, a question. It can be a personal matter, like, what do I do about the fact that my mother's Social Security check didn't arrive when it should have? And, we have folks that are able to cut through the red tape and the bureaucracy and solve that kind of problem for people. And other people come and they have issues and concerns about national policy. They're concerned about the deficit or the war or some other, important national policy. So those kinds of often brief, casual, impromptu conversations, they happen every single day. And it's important to me to be available to to hear what's on people's minds.
Now, you've been to Washington before, and now in a different capacity. What is your impression of being a member of the United States Senate thus far?
Yeah, that's a pretty big question on the one hand, but on the other hand, I've only been a member for about 4 days or so. I guess the the big impression that remains with me is from the swearing-in day itself, and just the enormous responsibility that the people of Pennsylvania have given to me, the hope and the trust that they have placed in me. It's really it's a sobering thought, it's a humbling thought, and it's a reminder of what a big task this is, and how very seriously we all need to take our obligations when we're in public life. So I'm very grateful to the people of Pennsylvania who've given me this responsibility, but very aware that this is a big job, and I'm looking forward to the work ahead, and just grateful for this responsibility.
We have some big problems, Senator Toomey, that are going to need some big solutions. We saw unemployment numbers last week. Although unemployment is down at the rate of speed that jobs have been added, it is going to take a long time for America to recover substantially. What do you think of those numbers?
Well, the numbers were disappointing. I mean, we added a little over 100,000 jobs, but we need to add far more than that just to keep pace with the new entrants in the workforce. Every day all across America there are, thousands of people that turn 16, turn 18, graduate from high school, graduate from college, become discharged from the armed services. And these are people who enter the workforce. They need jobs. We need to create enough jobs to put those people to work, but we need to create far more than that so that the people who've lost their jobs can come back to work. And we're not creating jobs at nearly nothing like the kind of pace that it's necessary. So we spent a full day on Thursday. We were sworn in on Wednesday, and then Republican members of the Senate met on Thursday to talk about, and the item number one that took almost the entire day for us was to talk about what do we do to create an environment where there'll be more jobs, where there'll be more businesses started, what are the policies that'll maximize economic growth. And I was honored because the leader of our conference, the elected conference chairman, his title, and that's Senator Lamar Alexander from Tennessee, asked me to start off the session with a discussion about what I thought would be the policies that would maximize economic growth and job creation. And there were other senators who addressed other issues like national security and the wars and border control and various other things. But he asked me to address the issue that's closest to that's just on the front of my mind every day, and that's getting this economy moving again. So we had a constructive conversation about that. We'll be eager to hear what the president has to say in the State of the Union address, which is just a couple of weeks away, and there's a lot of work to be done.
You also talked about national security, safety, border control. Those issues are, I think, front and center on the minds of a lot of Americans, and certainly need to be addressed. What were the thoughts of your fellow senators on that? Well,
without quoting anybody, it was a private discussion, but I can tell you confidently that when this topic was discussed, there was I thought, a very strong consensus that securing the border is the first and the highest priority item under the broad category of immigration issues. That's number one. And until we have demonstrated that we have control of our border, that we're capable of controlling our border and monitoring traffic across the border and admitting only those people who are legally permitted to be admitted, until we get to that point, we can't do anything else. That's item number one. It's a fundamental responsibility. We also talked about how that can be done. And again, I think there's a strong consensus, at least among Republicans, and I hope beyond that, that it is possible to secure a border. It requires a combination of manpower, of physical barriers, of electronic barriers and surveillance measures. It requires all of that, and it's not easy and it's not cheap because it's a big, long border, and it goes through some very barren relatively unpopulated, some totally unpopulated, desolate areas. But okay, so that just makes it a tougher job. That means all the more important that we get at it soon. But I can tell you there was a consensus that that's something that we need to do.
And number 3 is health care, which the House is going to look at or will look at in the future. I guess they were supposed to maybe look at it today, but they are not. In the Senate, that may be a tougher sledding, but what have your colleagues said about that?
Well, we acknowledge that, we Republicans don't control the Senate. So the Democratic Senate leader, Harry Reid, he controls the agenda that we will be dealing with. He controls what will be voted on the Senate floor. My own view is we should repeal this health care bill. It's going to undermine the quality of health care, and it is costing us jobs right now. Even as we speak, it's driving up premiums. It's making it more expensive for an employer to hire a worker, and that means employers hire fewer workers. So it's really bad policy. The House could pass a repeal. I think they will next week. In the Senate, we're just not going to get a chance to do that. But that doesn't mean there aren't things we can do. The implementation of this bill requires funding. And Congress has a lot of say over funding. So I think that's an opportunity for us, really an obligation for us to prevent whatever we can from this bill from being implemented, move in the direction of the kind of reforms that I've long advocated that would actually lower cost and improve access without this monstrous government takeover. Those are things we're going to have to do it incrementally over the course of these next 2 years because, let's face it, President Obama is not going to sign a repeal bill, and we couldn't pass one in the Senate anyway. But we can make some incremental improvements, delay this bill, make the kind of move in the direction of the kind of reforms that we need, and then hopefully we'll have a different outcome in the presidential election, and we'll have an opportunity to fully repeal this and move in the direction of giving individuals real ownership and control of their health care rather than the government.
I hate to look so far ahead to 2012, but it's looming on the horizon. Is there a presidential candidate from the Republican side of the aisle that you believe is a strong candidate?
Well, I don't have a favorite, I'll say that. I think we've got a lot of strong candidates. I think we will see candidates emerge that are not yet well known. I think people will come from relative national obscurity, but they're probably well known in their home states. And I think we'll have a very competitive field, maybe a crowded field of candidates that the primary system will winnow down. But I'm confident we'll have a strong field and ultimately a very strong nominee.
United States Senator from Pennsylvania, Pat Toomey on WILK. We appreciate your time, Pat, and congratulations.
Thanks for having me, Sue.
Okay,
Take
no
care.
problem. It's